Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لَتُبْلَوُنَّ فِي أَمْوَالِكُمْ وَأَنفُسِكُمْ وَلَتُسْمَعُنَّ من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم ومن الذين أشركوا أذًى كثيرا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that you will be tested in your wealth and in your persons, in your lives, your property and your persons, your well-being, your safety. And you will hear much harm, things that bother you. Adhan. Adha is anything that harms you, yu'lik. You'll hear much harm from the people who were given the book before you, meaning the Jews and the Christians, Ahlul Kitab, and from those who are polytheists, idolaters, وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا أَذًى كَثِيرًا. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells how you respond to that. وَإِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا إِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. So if you show patience, and if you have taqwa, piety, that's the essence of this affair. إِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. That's at the root of what this affair is about. That's how you're tested. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. That He created life and death, or death and life, in order to try you. The same word, you're going to have tribulation, bala. You're going to have tribulation. He did this in order to try you, to see which of you is the most beautiful in action. أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. The people of ihsan. The people that respond. إِدْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Respond in the most beautiful way. Right? لَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ. A good deed and a bad deed are not equal. They're not equal. So respond to a bad deed with a good deed. That's the point. إِدْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. That when you push back with a good thing. Not with a bad thing. Push back with a good thing. And this is reiterated in the hadith when the Prophet sent Mu'adh. He gave him this advice. He said, خَلَقَ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. Have beautiful character. وَأَتْبِعْ سَيِّئَةَ الْحَسَنَةَ تَمْحُهَا. And follow up any foul deed, whether it comes from you or somebody else, with a good deed. تَمْحُهَا. And it will obliterate it. Because the nature of goodness, it obliterates evil. Some theologian argued that evil is actually the absence of goodness. That evil is present because of the vacuum of goodness. So if there's goodness, evil doesn't have any room to exercise itself. So the Prophet ﷺ was told to be patient. And his people were told to be patient. Now, one of the things, you're looking, I'm sure all of you are aware of what's happening around the Muslim world. You see, look at the countries where things are not out of control in the Muslim world. Malaysia is a very educated place. Turkey is a very educated place. You know, they're Muslims. If you go to Turkey, they love Islam. The mosques are filled. Right? If you go to Malaysia, they love Islam. Their mosques are filled. Go to certain Muslim countries and you'll see that it's very different from other Muslim countries. What is the hallmark of the distinguishing characteristic that makes them different? I will guarantee you, it's not Iman. It's not Iman. It's education. They have higher levels of education. It's as simple as that. The more educated you are, the less likely you are to make a fool out of yourself. Because people who are ignorant people do ignorant things. That's why they're called juhal. The jahil is somebody who does ignorant things. It's called jahiliyah. Now, when you have a lot of ignorant people, but you have regulators for those ignorant people, these are called shuyukh. Like in a tribal society, you have a wise person. That's what shaykh means, wise. That's one of the meanings. It has several meanings in Arabic. One of them is wise. So when there's a problem, the people, the ignorant people, they go to the wise person. And they say, what should we do? And then he says, we should do this or this, settle down, calm down. Now, when the Sahaba,
the Arabs, by their nature, Arabs are a desert people by their nature. Desert people are hot people. This is well known. They have by their nature a choleric temperament. They're hot people. The Prophet ﷺ was dealing with them all the time. You can read seerah from beginning to end, and you will see constantly, even amongst his companions, hot-headedness. You will see this. Hot-headedness. Allah. Really, this is part of our tradition. But what is the Prophet ﷺ always doing? Calm down. When they were shouting takbir before a battle, he said, have some dignity. You're not calling on a deaf God. He never raised his voice in the marketplace. The ulama say, or he rarely did it. He didn't do it as a habit. The few times that he was in the marketplace, one time he really did it with some humor, with a man who was trying to sell something, and the Prophet put his hand, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, on the man's eyes, and he said, "Man yashtari hadha al-abd?" Who's going to buy this slave? And then he said, "Idan tajiduni 'inda Allahi kasida." Like, I'm not, because you have to shout when your goods aren't good, then you have to shout out. When they're good, you don't have to say, that means you don't think I'm something that'll sell easily, so you have to advertise. That's what he was essentially saying. He said, you're not something of little worth with Allah. That was Zahir. He said, Zahirun badiyatun wa nahnu hadirun. The Prophet ﷺ, this was his nature. He was once walking in a Sahih Hadith, Aisha related. He was walking with Aisha, and this is in Medina. This is after he has power. Not in Mecca, where they were oppressed. No, he's in Medina, and he's with his wife. And a group of Ahlul Kitab walked by, and one of them, or all of them, said, Assalamu alaikum. Now this is a way of just trying to ghost somebody. Because salam means peace, sam means death. But salam alaikum, it's almost like you could get away with it. Aisha heard that, and she said, wa alaikum. وَلَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ وَغَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ. And on you, death, and the damnation of God. Go to hell, and may God's wrath be upon you. The Prophet ﷺ said, مَهْلًا يَا عَيْشَةَ. Slow down. Go easy, Aisha. مَهْلًا يَا عَيْشَةَ. And then Aisha, here's this young woman who loves her husband, and she knows he's the messenger of Allah, and she hears somebody speaking ill of him. She gets angry. What does he say? Mahman, slow down, take it easy. And then he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, alayki bil-rifq. Be gentle. Alayki bil-rifq. This is not in normal circumstances. This is in a circumstance where you're being provoked. عليك بالرفق وإياك والعنف والفحش. Beware of violence and using foul language. Anything that's uncouth. ألم تسمعهم يا رسول الله? Here's Aisha, because she was a strong woman. Didn't you hear what they said? Maybe he didn't hear. Maybe he doesn't understand why I reacted. Maybe he thought they said, Assalamu alaikum. ألم تسمع ما قالوا يا رسول الله؟ قال صلى الله عليه وسلم ألم تسمع ما قلت يا عائشة? Didn't you hear what I said? In other words, who's establishing the sunnah here? You or me? Who's establishing the sunnah? Who are you following? Your nafs, your hawa? Because this is about constraint. This is about intasbiru. وَتَتَّقُوا. If you show patience, when you're being provoked, when you're being angered. لَيْسَ الشَّدِيدُ شَدِيدَ الصُّرَعَةِ. The strong man is not the man who can overthrow anybody, who can wrestle anybody down. The strong man, the Prophet ﷺ said, the strong man is the one who controls his anger. The one who controls his anger. A man came, he said, Ya Rasulullah, awsini, la taghdab. Awsini, la taghdab. Awsini. He kept saying, awsini, give me some real advice. Well, what does that mean? Don't get angry. Right? I'm an Arab. Change my personality? Well, no, because this is about elevating yourself above your human nature to a transformed nature, the nature of belief, the nature of taqwa. This is what this deen is about. We have Muslims all over the ummah making this deen look like it's a religion of fools. Really. Out of some perceived grievances. From who? To whom? The Prophet, you don't think he was cursed in his lifetime? They wrote poems about him. Those poems are still in our books of literature. Our ulama didn't shy away from writing what they wrote about the Prophet. You can read Ibn Hisham, and you can read the ridicules that these poets, and they were great poets, not these idiots and fools. These were real poets. The Arab, they could write poetry. Ka'b ibn Zuhair, who made tawbah from his poem. What did the Prophet say? Sahih al-Bukhari, Kitab al-Manaqib. This is in the Sahih. Here's what he says in Mecca to his Sahaba. They're hearing all of these things about the Prophet ﷺ. What does he say? In a riwayah of Ahmad and others, he says, Unduru ibadallah. Reflect on this, O servants of Allah. And in al-Bukhari, Sahih al-Bukhari, he says, أَلَا تَعْجَبُونَ? Aren't you amazed? أَلَا تَعْجَبُونَ كَيْفَ يَصْرِفَ اللَّهُ عَنِّي شَتْمَ قُرَيْشٍ وَلَعْنَهُمْ? Aren't you amazed how Allah removes whatever the Quraysh have to say about me that's negative? He diverts it from me. Isn't that amazing to you? All of you? Isn't that amazing? He said, يَشْتِمُونَ مُذَمَّمًا وَيَلْعَنُونَ مُذَمَّمًا وَأَنَا مُحَمَّدٌ. They're talking about this character named Muhammad. They're cursing this guy named Muhammad. They intended the Prophet in their poems. Everybody knew who they intended. But how did he look at it? I don't know who they're talking about. That's not me. I'm Muhammad. I'm not Muhammad. I'm not Muhammedo. Dante's Muhammedo. I'm not Muhammad, or however they think they can pronounce that name. That's not the Prophet they're talking about. Don't think they're talking about the Prophet. Nothing that they say can reach the Prophet. The dogs will bark all night at the moon. Do the sounds of the dogs affect the glory of the moon crossing the sky? Do they affect the glory of the moon? We know who our Prophet was. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The problem is we haven't told anybody else. We've kept this to ourselves. Most of these people are just ignorant people. And there are some very devious, demonic people here. And I'll give you an example about this. There are people that want to see Muslims killing Jews, and there are people that want to see Muslims killing Christians. This is what they want. They want Muslims in Egypt. Where did they air this? They first showed up in Egypt on Egyptian television. Who's doing this and why? What are they trying to get out of this? The internet is filled with slanders about the Prophet ﷺ. It's filled with them. Don't Google it because you'll vomit, you'll throw up. There's images, there's pictures, there's cartoons, there's comic books, making fun, mocking. This is the reality, but why now? And why this? Really, you think about this. Who's being manipulated here? What does Allah say to Shaitan? وَاسْتَفْزِزْ مَنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ مِنْهُمْ. Provoke, instigate, rile up those among them, Bani Adam, who you're able to. بِصَوْتِكَ, with your voice, your lies, your deceptions. He's the great deceiver. He's the liar. He loves what's happening now. This Shaitan is having a field day. And he's just laughing at this. He's just, look at these. You chose me over these? Look at these pathetic creatures. You chose me over these? Look at them. Look how easy it is to manipulate them. All I have to do is spread rumors. Put something on the internet, and look, they're all behaving like a bunch of fools and idiots. Shaitan is happy as pie. And all his minions. وَأَجْلِبْ عَلَيْهِمْ بِخَيْلِكَ وَرَجْلِكَ. Bring your cavalry, bring your infantry. He's got minions. Really. People say, there's a big conspiracy. It is the Iblis. Most of these people don't know they're part of the Iblisic conspiracy. They don't know that. They just hear whispers in their heart. I think I'll try that. That's a good idea. Yeah, let's do that. But this is what's going on. This is what Allah is telling us. And then what does He say? وَشَارِكُمْ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ. Get them to do haram things so they get their money. In haram ways, in prohibited ways. Right? وَفِي الْأَوْلَادِ. And zina, fornication. Get them to have illegitimate children, because that will destroy them. Destroy their civilization. Destroy their families. Right? وَإِذْهُمْ. And give them your false promises. وَمَا يَعِدُ الشَّيْطَانُ إِلَّا غُرُورًا. And then Allah says, and Shaitan only promises them falsehood. But then He says, right? وَإِنَّ عِبَادِي لَيْسَ لَكَ عَلَيْهِمْ سُلْطَانٌ. But you have no authority over my slaves. Why? Because they're people of sabr. They're people of taqwa. They're people of sakina. They're people of forbearance. This is my people. I know what you don't know. When the angel said, why are you putting somebody who's going to shed blood, kill ambassador? Our Prophet ﷺ never killed an ambassador. When Musaylima sent his ambassadors, he sent them back. Kill an ambassador. You know how the Mongols invaded the Muslim countries? Because their ambassadors were killed by an arrogant Muslim ruler. And they sent their hordes. And millions of Muslims lost their lives. Their homes were destroyed. This is what happens. You're playing with fire here. This community is playing with fire. We have extremists on both sides. We've got extremists here that want to see us killing Christians, and we've got extremists over there that want to see us killing Christians and Jews. This is what they want, because they want a conflagration. You read history. Read history. The Muslims are down. We've been down before. But when we were down in Mecca, we had patience. We had forbearance. We had the teachers there to say, calm down. Mahlan ya Aisha. Calm down, Aisha. This is the way the Prophet conquered the world. He didn't conquer the world with swords and spears. He conquered it with good character. And now we think we can rattle toothless tigers. Really, toothless tigers, like Aesop's donkey that finds the tiger's skin. You know, in Aesop's fables, the donkey finds the tiger's skin, and he puts it on, and he starts going around, and all the animals there run away, and they're afraid. But then the fox hears him hee-hawing. He's laughing, but he's hee-hawing. And the fox comes and he says, you better learn how to roar. You're not fooling me. This is what we've become. Like the donkey putting on the cloak of a lion. Let's roar. We've been humiliated so long. We humiliated ourselves. Who has humiliated us? Nobody can humiliate you if you have dignity. They only humiliate themselves by denigrating you. These people that are denigrating the Prophet ﷺ, they're denigrating themselves. They're showing what ignorant people they are. These aren't people of any worth or weight. They're empty people, vacuous people. But there's also amongst them demonic people. They want to see Muslims behaving like fools. You know why? Because they spent in the last few years $43 million to produce hate in this country towards the Muslims. $43 proven million. We don't know what's going on in other places. $43 million. That man in Norway who went and killed 69 people, wounded 150 people, blew up a station, all these young people, even some children he killed, he was influenced by these ideas. He wrote 1,500-page text. 1,583 pages to declare why he did it. You know why he did it? He said, we're turning into Eurasia. The Muslims are taking over, and the people that are doing it are the multiculturalists. The people that want to tell us we can live with Muslims, that they're the same as us, that they share the same values with us. No, my friends, we have to have preemptive strikes now. This is his theology. This is his ideology. He was influenced by people in this country writing books. He quoted them. And Muslims, let's go destroy the American embassy. You know, this is our response. We don't build anymore. We built the greatest buildings in the world. We built the greatest universities in the world. And now you look at the Muslim community seriously. And you have to think about this. Now in the United States, my warning to all of you, we have a window of opportunity, but I'm laying out a warning. We have a window of opportunity in this country to let people know who we are. Because there's other people defining us, and they're using very sophisticated strategies, demonic strategies, to instigate, to provoke, to make Muslims react. You know what Sun Tzu says in The Art of War? He says, anger your enemies. Provoke them so that they fall into disarray. They can't even think. This is what's happened to our community. People can't even think straight. No, patience and taqwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, "Ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah." Hold to prayer. Hold to prayer. Really. In Surah Al-Mumtahana, Allah says an amazing thing. He says, رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْنَا فِتْنَةً لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Don't make us a tribulation for those who disbelieve. Fakhruddin al-Razi and others say, it means we become such a negative example that people have no encouragement to even think about Islam. They're not interested in finding out. We become a barrier for any interest in Islam. And then he says, immediately after that, وَغْفِرْ لَنَا رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. Oh Allah, forgive us. You can destroy us. You're Aziz, you're Hakim, but forgive us. Fakhruddin al-Razi says, they put asking not to be a tribulation for the disbelievers before asking for forgiveness, because if you become a tribulation for those who don't know anything about Islam, you might not get the forgiveness of God. They're more worried about being a tribulation for disbelievers than their forgiveness. That's what he said. Now you look at the ayahs that follow that, they're about relations between people that you have animosity with. Right? عَسَى اللَّهُ أَنْ يَجْعَلْ بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ الَّذِينَ عَدَيْتُم مِّنْهُمْ مَوَدَّةً. Allah can take people who you are fighting now and put between you love. وَاللَّهُ قَدِيرٌ. Allah's all-powerful. He can make people you don't like now, or you hate now, or they hate you. He can make them your friend. Like the Mongols, they invaded the Muslim land. Within 50 years, people that saw them come as pagans conquering them were praying side by side with them in mosques they built. In 50 years. The great English Christian writer Arnold says it's one of the unique cases in history where the conquered their conquerors with ideas. They came with force, but the Muslims had ideas. We don't have ideas or force now. We're like a mosquito. It's just bothering the Western social body. But I'll tell you something. There are people in this country, in very high positions of power, in which nuclear options are not far-fetched for them. I'm telling you this, the absolute truth. There are people in this government, in the military, there are voices there saying, we need to show real force here. This has gotten out of hand. Right? They don't need to send in soldiers. And this country has used nuclear weapons twice, and they've used radiation many times. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Sam Harris, in a best-selling book, argues for a preemptive nuclear strike on the Muslims because they're threatening our existence. And this is crazy stuff, but this is somebody who lectures all over and is held up as an intellectual. So, I think Muslims really need to think very deeply about what you're doing here in the United States. You know, if you came here to make some money, it's not going to be that easy to make money for Muslims pretty soon. You know, I'm just telling you. You know, my problem is I read too much. You know, people, blissful ignorance, that's what they call it. But when you see what's happening, when you see what's going on, so, Muslims better really think about this. Either we practice our religion or we stop pretending that we're Muslims. As far as I'm concerned, I adopted this faith and I'm sick of defending ignorant, backward, reactionary fools. Really, I'm tired of it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين